Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia. How you doing today, babe?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Well, you know what? I guess today is going to have to be called our COVID edition
Oh,
because we've had a little we've had a little quarantine adventure this week.
okay. Do tell, boys. You tell.
Yeah. So I've been locked away for a while because I got after our trip, and we told everybody about our trip last week, and a lot of you all were tuning in when we went out of the country. And during that time, I was healthy as a horse. Everything was great. We had a wonderful time. And then dun 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 dun, and then that's when the Rona snuck up on us, and there we are on the trip, and that's been my whole week. What's the week been like for you?
Well, I mean, it's been very confusing because I don't understand. Like, we were all in each other's space, in each other's space, all
Mhm.
together. Look at those pictures. Okay, and how is it that you got coronavirus and I didn't?
I don't know. I guess you got those strong African genes or those Gary, Indiana genes.
I have no
May-
idea. It's
Maybe
crazy.
women in Gary don't get sick.
No one else has it in the house. It's just you, boys.
Yeah. But it's actually not been so bad. It's been a relatively decent week, and also I want to as we begin our conversation today, I want to welcome everybody to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm a finance professor and also a black man, and my wife is a beautiful black woman who happens to be a full professor of social work, a licensed therapist, and also an individual who cares about her people as well. And so we like to have intelligent conversations against our pillow typically, but we're not against our pillow today since I'm in quarantine. Shout out the city that you guys are from. Shout out the city that you're from. And we're going to definitely jump into today's topic in 1 second. And I see Carolina already has some comments up here, and I see that in Rashida and Hector. And somebody says, seen the video titled in the session, by far the lowest I've seen anyone stupid. So, okay, I don't know what that means. Anyway, so welcome to everybody. Welcome to all the intelligent black people. Welcome to all the people who love black people. Welcome to all the trolls who are sleeping in their mama's basements on a regular basis. And welcome to everybody to Pillow Talk. So I see Jacksonville, Cleveland, San Antonio, LA. I see a lot of you from different parts of the country. Let's see, Phoenix, Raleigh, North Carolina, Fayetteville. All right. And let's hop into our topic. Hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, so how many of you saw this story with this woman who we'll give you some background on it. We did a little research on it, and apparently there was a sister who got so mad at her lying ass, cheating ass boyfriend that she decided that she was going to videotape herself throwing his dead mother's ashes into the river. There was a big reaction about it on social media, and I don't know what his dead mama did to her, but it was really interesting. So what do you think about that, Alicia?
Yeah, well, the details are coming forth, and so what I've been seeing is that that video was not the actual video of her throwing his dead mother's ashes into the lake or whatever. It was just a reenactment. It wasn't actually her doing it because it actually happened, I think, a year ago, 2 years ago. She was arrested, and I guess someone went on TikTok. I don't know,
Oh,
and just
really?
So
Okay.
case, but it wasn't it actually happened, but it didn't happen like it did on the video. The video was fake or a reenactment. It's a reenactment of something that actually happened. And that's
Wow.
he was arrested. Who knew you could be arrested for that?
I didn't know either,
I
and I
did.
and I want to ask you. My wife mentioned that she says it sounded like my audio was going in and out. Are you all able to hear me? Can you give me a yes in the chat if you can hear me? Okay. Can you hear me, babe? Are you able to hear me? All right.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just you were saying a couple of words and then it cut out.
Oh, okay. Well, are my words coming through okay now?
Yeah, it's going well now.
Okay. Yeah, just give me a good yes. Let me know you guys can hear me. I don't want to be talking without the voice going through. Yeah. So apparently you, I think you had sent me the link, and you and I are always really intrigued by, some of these emotional reactions that can come off a bit extreme, especially in relationships with Black folks, because we've talked extensively on here about how high Black people are on the trauma scale, and how that, how some of that can cause just over the top reactions to relationship disappointments. And her, it looks like her name is Augustine Gladney, so she's 40 years old,
Wow.
and which is interesting, right? Because you would expect this from a 24-year-old. Well, you wouldn't expect it,
No, you
but you would expect someone
don't.
who
For
does
your
this. Wait, well, I would expect
uh-huh.
someone who does something like this to be a young girl in her 20s. I wouldn't expect a
Ah,
grown woman over 40 to behave this way. But it sounds to me like she was obviously a hurt person,
mhm.
and also that behavior. It just seems inconsiderate. Like I'm mad at you, so I'm going to take something that you really love, your mother, and I'm going to dump your mother's ashes into the river. Um, what do you think about? I mean, what are your thoughts on that in terms of the fact that she's 40 years old and not 20 years old?
Well, I mean, that's what happened. I mean, you mentioned trauma, and sometimes that's what happens when you're hurt, and your reaction to that hurt, it 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 gets you triggered. And clearly, she was triggered and wasn't thinking clearly. That's what happens when you're triggered. Hence, the definition of triggered. You go back to the age, and because what happens? Here's what happened. Okay, look. Let's just say her boyfriend cheated on her. What that means is that she was deceived. It means that she was probably lied to. It means that she, let's see, she was hurt, she was betrayed, she has these feelings. So a lot of us who feel that way, all normal people who aren't necessarily triggered by something like that, we feel that way. We know how to control our emotions. Most of us do. We'll cry about it. We may, a lot of couples come and see me to try to process what's happened. That's the adult way to deal with things. Maybe you're hurt. You might get upset. Sometimes you raise your voice. That's sort of like a normal reaction. Or you become curious. What happened? How come you felt like you needed to do this? What's the source of that? So there's an adult way of dealing with pain and rejection and hurt and frustration. There's an adult way to do it. But the problem is that when people are triggered, they're dealing with things in a way that's very childish. And you're doing and you're saying things that you normally wouldn't do or say. I don't want to make excuses for her, but I think that I'm just here to just try to explain why people who are triggered tend to do and say things they normally wouldn't do, because you go back to the age. It's funny you mentioned that she was 40. Well, just because you're 40 doesn't mean anything. If you've had past hurts and you didn't resolve a lot of those hurts, your mind goes right back to when you were 12 years old and you felt deceived by somebody. And those things were never ever resolved. And so you behave in a way of a 12-year-old. I don't even know, or a 12-year-old or a 2-year-old to that extent. And so she just snapped, and she was hurting, and she said, I'm going to hurt him, and he took it there, and I'm going to take it up to a whole nother notch. That's how some people react to things. And it's not race based. This isn't something that Black women do. I know, like, people come down on Black women. This is Black women. This is why Black women, whatever. It's what people do. And I'm sorry, I've seen couples from all sorts of genres, all sorts of backgrounds and categories, and people who are traumatized, and many of us are. So this is just a reaction to that. It's childish and immature, of course, but I'm not here to try to judge. I'm just going to be here to just kind of explain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll say this. I don't know if it sounds judgmental or not, but I think that I'm okay with putting or imposing my value system on this idea that I don't understand personally why you would need to throw somebody's mother's ashes in the river because you're upset in a relationship. And I get it, in terms of why she did what she did. And I try to ask myself, if this were a man who, let's say, instead of throwing the mother's ashes off into the water, let's say it was a man who just punched her in the face. Society does not spend any time. No one spends any time saying, you know, did he punch her in the face because his feelings were hurt? Like, what led him to punch her in the face? Right? No, we don't do that. We say you beat a woman. There's a penalty for that, and whatever issue, whatever hurt feelings you had that caused you to hit that woman, you're gonna have to work that out on your own. You should have, somebody should have taught you how to put your feelings in check. Somebody should have taught you how to handle your emotions in a mature way. Now we're going to teach you a lesson that we don't care how mad you are. We don't care how unjust things are. We don't care how many convictions in the court of love that you feel like you deserve. The reality is that there are boundaries of acceptable behavior. Like you can't go in and decide, or because I felt betrayed, or because all of us have felt betrayed, all of us have had something taken from us. Whether you talk about somebody who was abandoned at the altar because somebody decided that they don't want to marry you. Well, they don't have to marry you. They never had to marry you. Or if you feel hurt because she decided she wanted a different man. A lot of men get mad because women choose a better man. Like there's a whole conversation on the internet scolding black women for having standards that are quote unquote too high. Like, her standards are too high. Well, who the hell are you to tell her that her standards are too high? Those are her standards. It's her right to have. Wait, are you upset because you can't meet the standard? Is that why you feel the need to sit there and watch video after video where you attack a woman for having standards that are too high? That she should date a regular guy like me? Well, no, maybe she just doesn't want that, and it's her right to not want that. So, what my point is to say is that the thing that it made me interested in this whole story is that when I see stuff like this happen, I'm always curious, and that's why I always turn to you and ask your thoughts on it. Because you know the cycle set therapy and everything else. But I see all of this coming back to childhood. I see so much of this going back to. I would never forget when I heard my biological sister, explain how she feels about men, and the first one thing that she said to me was, I was asking her about our biological father, and I said, "Tell us, how did you feel about him? Like, what was it like living in the house with him?" She said, "I remember being 4 years old and being very disappointed and saying, 'Gosh, my daddy's a bum.'" And sure, nobody corrected that. Maybe there should have been an intervention at that point. Maybe he should have been there to say, "No, daddy's not a bum, baby. Let me take you to the park." I don't know, but I know that affected her ability to trust men for the rest of her life. So I believe millions of little girls, when that daddy's not there for whatever reason he's not there, I think that hurt and that pain comes out like crazy when the man that they love abandons them.
Yeah, so you mentioned several things. Like, one thing you mentioned is that you talked about the gendered response, that if a man did that, that it wouldn't have that outrage. I don't know. I'm trying to get to like what you're talking about with that, because she was arrested for that. I'm certain she probably faced criminal charges for what she did. I don't see anybody saying that what she did was okay because she was a woman. Like, I didn't see, because I did read some of the comments, and I didn't see anybody say, "Oh, she's a woman, so it's okay." And if I don't know if there was any support for her behavior. And then I also, think that, I'm just curious about your gendered response here, because to me it just seems as if it was a terrible thing to do. And women people can do terrible things to each other. And if it's illegal, if a man puts his hands on you and he hits you, that's illegal. And if a woman takes your property and, like, dead mother's ashes, I don't know what the charges were. I didn't even know that was an actual crime, but it makes sense. You took your property and destroyed your property. um that's a crime. So I think that, things are just illegal. You should not have to do those things to each other. And I do a lot of work. I don't know, I got many hats, Boyce. One of my hats is, I'm uh program evaluator for a uh, domestic violence program, domestic violence agency in Chicago. And I come in and I do a lot of the evaluation. And part of that includes interviewing participants in the program. They're court ordered people, and there's a men's group and there's a women's group. So both of them in the eye of the court, and maybe you're talking about society, maybe you're talking about, I don't know what you're referring to, but that gendered response that you gave, I mean, there's just as many women in that group, in the women's group, as there are men in the men's group. And of course it looks different, but the lack of respect and the abuse, it occurs in both genders. And so that women's group has been growing, of course, but I just think that the reason why the women's group has been growing is because rightfully so, more men are starting to come forth and say, this
Right.
person is abusive to me, and it's not right. It's not right across the board, but I want you to explain a little more what you mean by that. And then I'll go on to my other comment about your.
Well, no, well, you make a good point. You make a good point. I wasn't making. I mean, you don't. I totally get what you were saying about the different groups and things like that. And I think specifically on this particular topic, you're right. When I looked through the comments, there were a lot of people who were appalled by her behavior. It wasn't as if they were saying, "Well, because she's a woman, it must be okay." I don't think anybody. Very few people feel like that's okay. So that I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that everybody just had empathy for her. And by the way, just on another note, the woman who was charged, she was charged or actually charged with abuse of a corpse. And in the state of Texas, abuse of a corpse is a Class A misdemeanor that carries a $4,000 fine and up to a year in prison. And so this happened in Fort Worth. And according to records, Smith told police on June 3rd, 2020, that his late mother's urn was missing from the residence he and Gladney shared. So they lived together. He maintains that he heard a conversation Gladney had with her mother, admitting to the fact. So the urn was missing. And so there was a deception there. And I'd love to get your thoughts on the deception piece. But there was deception where the urn's missing. And he's like, "Hey, babe, where's my dead mother's ashes?" And she's like, "I don't know." And lo and behold, he overhears a conversation between this woman and her daughter. So later, Smith says Gladney texted him and also confessed to what she had done. Police advised Smith to collect all text interaction with the woman as evidence. And then there was that video, which I'll show everybody on screen in a second, of some woman throwing somebody's ashes off a river. And apparently this is just a reenactment, but if you want to see the reenactment, just for whatever reason, I'll show it to you. But overall, that's kind of how it went down. So I agree with you. I think that people have matured when it comes to domestic violence. I think that they understand, that women can hurt men too. And I'm glad, because there are a lot of men who get hurt. And I think that part of some of what you're seeing online in terms of the weird, movements of men and women are driven by frustration. I can see women that are upset because they feel that they aren't heard, and a lot of men don't feel heard. And so I'd love to get your thoughts about just that idea of living with somebody who lied to you, took something very sacred as your mother's ashes, and then like sat there and made you think that somebody stole them.
It's the revenge. She was probably taking revenge on him. I guess her way of dealing with and let's just say, I mean, if he, if he was lying to her and deceiving her, I mean, so there's probably clearly serious issues between the two of them. They're not, hopefully they are not. And it's funny, like, you never know, they could still be together. You know how couples, man, you, man, I feel like I've heard it and seen it all. you know just in,
Mm.
just in my practice experience and working, like, I just feel like it's such an honor to be able to, even like earlier this week we were talking about like what it's like working at Cook County Hospital, as a social worker. And it's really something, just being able to be in the position where you're in somebody's lives as a social worker, and you see them at their lowest moment. You see them at the time of crisis, and trying to help them respond in a way that's helpful, and just to be in a position, in a helping professional position, to be with somebody. I mean, sometimes they are fully functional individuals and things just happen to them, and that's why they have to see people like me. And They're, great individuals. They do well in a community. They have a regular job, and then, something surprising and something really unfortunate happens that surprises them, and it's a high level of PTSD among people, because it's like, good grief, wasn't expecting this to happen, and I need a place to process it. So, I have in my mind, I feel like I have seen it all in my 20 years of helping mainly Black people, but just people dealing with their issues. And so you were asking about the deception, and why people do what they do. And, it's a bunch of different reasons. And I know you mentioned something about you were questioning, and what was coming to you was, thinking about maybe perhaps she didn't have a biological father, or any sort of father figure who stepped up to the plate for her. That could be, it could very well be that she didn't have, not only maybe was a male figure in her life not present, but maybe that male figure was abusive. It's possible, it's all possible that, there was something happening. And maybe for him, he's picked this lady who was this way, who acted in a way that was revengeful. So, he also has some onus in the way he treated her. So there's plenty of disrespect happening between these two. And
Yeah.
so, mhm, mhm.
By the way, everybody, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and my PhD is in finance. My wife's doctorate is in social work, and also she's a licensed therapist. And we're really interested in things like trauma and how trauma affects the drama that we see in our lives, the financial drama, and also the relationship drama in particular. And so what we did was we put together some snapshot templates, some easily digestible tips and information you can take in to get rid of the drama in your own life and the drama in your own family. If you go to boyceandalicia.com, we have lots of free resources. So whether you're trying to have a healthier relationship, we got you covered. Just go to boyceandalicia.com. If you want to actually have more money, anybody who wants to have more money, we got you covered. Go to boyceandalicia.com. I'm an expert on money. She's an expert on relationships. And also, we both extensively study trauma, the subconscious mind, and all the things that will help Black people live a better existence. And not just Black people, really all people, but we're both Black. So that's where we're going to start the conversation. So feel free to go to boyceandalicia.com. And also, Alicia sees clients on a regular basis, and her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. So if you'd like to learn more about her therapy business, feel free to go to coachingwithdralicia.com. She helps a lot of people. All right, so let me jump into something that I looked up, babe. I'm going to read this to you, and I want to get your thoughts on this. You ready?
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's on marriage.com, and it says 10 ways to deal with disappointment in relationships. So here we go. I'm gonna start reading this to you. I'm gonna read about 3 or 4 of them to you, and then I want to get your thoughts. So feel free to take notes or respond to any point that you see. And I think this is important because I think that in life, one of the best things I can say my parents gave me is they told me in the very beginning of my life that the world does not revolve around you. Now, sure, maybe I should have gotten, in some areas, I feel like I didn't get the same amount of attention that some of my friends may have gotten that were maybe if they were an only child or in a different kind of household. But the benefit of knowing the world doesn't revolve around you is knowing that you can't throw a hissy fit and a temper tantrum every time somebody lets you down, or every time somebody doesn't give you what they think, what you think was owed to you, or that the world owes you something. And so even the world doesn't even owe you a good relationship, right? In my world, that was the world I grew up in. And so here's some tips on how to deal with disappointment that they list here that maybe can help some of us. One is they said unrealistic or fantasy expectations can cause disappointment. In order to prevent expectations from leading you to feeling disappointment in your relationships, you can change your expectations. Um, they said terms like should be can create a lot of issues. Often, when people disappoint you, it is because you have overlaid upon them your vision of how you think things should be. You think your partner should be a big romantic, like the men you see on rom-com that you love to watch. When he doesn't display these characteristics, like bringing home a huge bouquet of long stem roses or whisking you off to a romantic weekend, you feel disappointment. But the reality is that you were viewing him through the lens of what these films were portraying as romance, and not through the realistic lens of who your spouse truly is. So what do you think about that in terms of just? I said I'd read multiple tips, but actually this first one looks like quite a bit. What do you think?
Oh gosh, that is so true. It is almost like was it Jerry Maguire, that movie when they were just like, you complete me. Like, oh
Mm,
my God, that is so unrealistic. You're never supposed to have a relationship where someone's supposed to complete you. You complete me. I am nothing without you. That is like that is definitely so unrealistic in terms of um having these expectations. And it's so funny because I talk about it in my in that course that I've taught, and that's available for anybody. But that course on expectations in terms of getting married, and part of it is having, it's implied, like these implicit conversations need to be explicit what the reality is. And and to have somebody to say like, you complete me, and I'm supposed to have a big bouquet of flowers to romance me, or for what a lot of men think is that, okay, when I come home from work, I want my wife to have dinner cooked with an apron on, because that's what you saw on television, or what you saw in movies, and how things should be. It's really just being real and and sitting down and having very very decisive conversations about, okay, what is our life going to look like? What are we going to look like every single day? And having that, not to say that you'll never get flowers, but why do you have to have them, and why does that have to be the case in relationships? Yeah, so it is a module that I teach in the preparing to be married course. Yeah, I love it.
hmm. Well, one of the other things that they talk about is they said you should verbalize your expectations, and nobody's a mind reader, and
Yeah.
your partner cannot know what you expect from them unless you tell them.
Bingo. Like, it's almost it's so funny how I'm just like, not only that, like, why can't you just know what I mean? Why can't you just read my mind and just all of a sudden assume? And so we kind of think that because we fall in love with somebody and we have so much in common, he's supposed to know what I want. I'm just like, many times I'm just like, I can't read your mind. What is it that you want from me? Tell me exactly what it is. And yeah, it's that again, making things explicit. And it's nice when you're first dating, because you're noticing all of these similarities, and you have, there's neurological things happening in the brain when you fall in love with someone, and you're just like, we are the same, we complete each other, and you have these ideas. And then you're it's unrealistic to think that someone is supposed to read your mind. And it's so interesting because you brought up the fact that you didn't get the attention that you felt that you needed. And I don't want to talk necessarily about you, but I want to say that when people grow up in a family where they didn't get the attention that they needed, and they didn't get the love that they needed, they sometimes internalize that, and they start to feel that they're unworthy. And so when you are in relationships and you have a need, sometimes it's very difficult to vocalize your need to a partner because you weren't able to vocalize your needs as a child. And you were dismissed, and you were put aside, and you were made to feel unimportant. And you say, you know what, well, if my needs and my thoughts aren't important, then I am unimportant. And when you get into relationships, you do expect somebody to just read your mind because you never had a responsible adult, usually a parent or a mom or a dad or someone in your life that was able to respond to you. And that's why it's so important for all of us,
Right.
to grow up in a loving environment. Because why is it so difficult for you when you're an adult to express what you really want and need? Well, you haven't had any practice in doing that. And you've been dismissed and put aside as a child. And I think we as Black people need to really stop and listen to our children and what our children really want and really need. And it's so important. Their feelings are so important. their thoughts are important. Not to say that they run the household, but there's a way for you um, to convey to someone that they're important and not have them take over and not have them be the only center of attention. But it's very important for them to know that they are important, so that when they become older, they can be in a relationship where they're able to say how they think and what they feel and what they need from their partner. And I see a lot of people in my office that can't do that because they have that sort of background.
Okay, okay. And one thing they were saying is so the reason I brought up this way to deal with disappointment is because when I see somebody who decides, okay, because I'm disappointed, because you cheated, and cheating is kind of the number one thing that men get found guilty of that leads to like probably 80% of all these divorces and stuff, or it's somewhere in there. It's usually in the divorce papers somewhere. You know, I think that it's but I think you can include that in the category of all the different areas where people, whenever somebody acts out in a relationship, when a man acts out, when a woman acts out, it seems to me that a lot of times it's because the partner did something that they did not like, right? You know, you may not have cheated on me, but maybe you disappointed me in some other way, got on my nerves, did something I didn't like, and there are appropriate ways to handle things. There are boundaries, and one of the things that I think is important is anybody who wants to stay out of jail and not ruin your life or not end up in crazy toxic situations is you have to find a set of coping mechanisms. You need to learn how to woosah in there. Like there's, you know, this idea. I mean, I remember when you and I were back at Indiana University, and there was some guy who lived in California who was upset because his girlfriend, who was attending IU with us at the time, she had decided to date another guy. So this guy traveled all the way from California and killed her in the dorm. And you know, he was probably a guy who felt like, how could you do this to me? You can't do this to me. This isn't right. You know, and maybe it wasn't right, but it also wasn't appropriate for him to respond by harming her. There's nothing you can't
Mhm.
do. The only thing you know how to do, or only thing you're able to do, in my view, is either accept it or walk away or do something, right? And I remember thinking about that, you know, when I was younger with relationships where stuff would just happen and people would just do you dirty, just do you wrong. And I do business all the time with lots of people to this day. And you've seen it up close where I did a deal with somebody. I did everything I was supposed to do, paid them tens of thousands of dollars or whatever. And then they just decided that they didn't want to do what they were supposed to do. And I would be mad. I'd be furious. I'd want to go and kick somebody's butt. But then there's a point where you say, you know what? The best you can do is pack your stuff and move on. The best thing you can do is take all that energy, you know, and this is true, I think, in relationships and love. When you get to that point where you start to feel possessive over another human being, like you start to feel like, okay, that's got to be my woman. That's my woman. Ain't she can't be nobody else's woman. She can't be with nobody but me. That limits you. You're not going to be able to see all the great women that are out there for you because you're focused on this one woman you can't have. And the best thing you can do, in my view, is find some way to take that energy. I'm talking from personal experience here in terms of what I had to consciously learn how to do is, and you got to take that energy and pour all that energy into getting as far away from that situation as you can, moving on as fast as you can, getting as far away from that person as you can, and moving as quick as you can to the whatever next good situation that God has in store for you, because that sort of resentment, bitter, stuck behavior, you are blocking every blessing that the universe has in store for you. Do not get into that petty mindset because you will block every blessing that God has thrown at you, and you're going to put yourself in the depths of hell.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned about uh sometimes business deals that you were involved in that didn't work out the way they should. And I'm not to, I don't want to sometimes unfortunate things happen to us. And part of that whole process is to look back and say there were red flags in there that I missed. There's been a lot of times where I've been like, Boyce, I told you. Like, what did I miss? What is it? It's being able to have that sort of ability, because people tell you who they are. They always tell you who they are. And what is Maya Angelou said, you must believe them when they tell you who you are. Little
Yep.
girl. And you know, you can't not tell who you are. And so it's that trustworthy behavior. When you see that, like, that's them telling you who they are. They're just somebody that you can't trust. And so when you're in a business deal, of course you can be blindsided by things, but you look back on that and say, golly, there were red flags that I missed, that this person did me wrong. I gave them a chance. And you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of discernment. And then you have to say, God, why did I miss that? You know, that's what I always do. When some people, there have been people who've done me wrong or whatever, and I'm not going to kill them or do something awful to them. You know what? Actually, it's mentioned. You said move on. When people do me wrong, I really do pray for them. I pray. I want them to have, because I want to forgive them. Like, I try to get into forgiveness where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to pray for them. I wish them the best, and in life moving forward. And they're out of my, and I'm thankful, always thankful. Okay, this person showed me who they are. I'm going to believe them, and I'm going to first reflect on that experience and say, what did I miss? What is it that I missed? What did I miss? You know, to process it. And then second, I'm like, you know what, goodbye to you in this situation. I wish you well. And I
Well,
always do that in those situations. Mm-hmm.
by the way, everybody, if you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I am a financial scholar. My wife is a social work professor, and we like to help people. We love helping our community. And if you want to know secrets to a drama-free life or ways to deal with the trauma in your life so that you can have the success that you want in your life, in your relationships, in your finances, and everything in between, there are free resources at boyceandalicia.com. So feel free to go there and get on the email list. We want you to be smarter. And we also know that you can't build anything in your life if you've got drama everywhere. If you're fighting with your partner, if you're fighting with your cousin, if you're fighting with yourself, if you haven't overcome some of the issues that you've had. Kendrick Lamar in his last album did a great job of expressing the fact that Black people, a lot of us need therapy. And so we want to help with that. So if you guys want to have an interest in any resources that can be of support to you, feel free to go to boyceandalicia.com. So let me jump in and add to the point that you just made, babe. I want to throw in something. I don't have any formal degrees in relationship stuff, so I need everybody to know that sometimes I end up just being a guy who I come in with Uncle Boyce mode, which some might think it sounds like I'm talking out of the side of my ass, but so you can take it with a grain of salt. But one of the things I can tell you is this: one thing that I know very well is I know investments. I probably have, I don't even know how many hundreds and hundreds of investments I have at any given time. I'm constantly investing. Financial theory and investing theory is something that I have taught college students since 1993. And I thought deeply about the things that we go through in life, but I thought about it in a financial standpoint. A lot of the things that I learned about risk affects how we view life. When you go into a relationship, you are taking a risk. Am I wrong or am I right? Give me a yes in the chat if you all understand what I'm saying. Because you talked about red flags, and I think that that's a great way to segue into risk. When you talk about red flags, what you're saying is that there were some risks there. There were some sharks in the water that I should have paid closer attention to. And now that some of this stuff has come to bite me later on, I'm now looking back and saying, "Oh my God, how could I miss that?" Or "Whoa, that was messed up," or "I should have noticed that." Right. So in general in your life, there are very few investments you're going to make that are more important than your investments in relationships, your investments in people. Seriously, I've invested millions of dollars before, but I can tell you that there's no investment I've ever made that's been more impactful than the investments I've made in terms of who I choose to have around me, how I choose my friends, how I chose my wife. I have a process, and the process I use to decide whether or not I want to take a chance on marrying Alicia isn't that much different from the way I might decide if I want to go into a certain business, because marriage is a business. It's a legal contract. There's financial implications, all of it, right? So
Oh, and love is not enough. Love is not enough to marry somebody.
yeah, love is not enough. Love ain't enough.
It ain't
A nice
necessary.
booty ain't enough. Good sex ain't enough.
It's necessary. It is necessary, but it is not enough.
All that stuff matters, and you can enjoy all the spoils of the relationship, but if you the only thing, if you choosing your partner based on one set of criteria, just on what they look like, are you asking for trouble? And one of the things I know about investments is that when it comes to investing in risk, is you have the knowns, the unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. So if you are deciding to make an investment in another person and you're not investing money, you're investing something much more valuable than money. You're investing your life. You're investing, you're not investing dollar bills, you are investing your mental health. You're not investing something that's going to appear in your bank account. You're investing your physical health. You're investing so it's time. You can't get the time back. You spend 5 years with a loser. Well, you can't go back and get that time back, no matter how much you cry about it. And what I've noticed is that when it comes to the risk, you have the knowns, the unknowns, and then you have the unknown unknowns. And the third category, the unknown unknowns, that's the biggest category of risk that there is. There's the stuff there's the red flags you see, right? And if you're smart, you'll take some time. I talked to a good friend of mine the other day who another brother who's in, he's in his 40s and he's a good guy, he's smart, he's an engineer. And we were talking about, he said, hey man, I met this great woman that I really like and I'm really digging her. He said, I think I met the one. And I was like, really, man, let me, tell me about her. And he told me she was 38 years old, and which defeats that whole bullshit theory about women over 35 being worthless or leftovers, all that nonsense. Like that's all stupid. Because I can tell you as a man, when I was 40, I could have dated women under 35. I had women of all ages that were interested in me. I didn't want to date a 22-year-old knucklehead. I didn't want to date a woman who who was watching cartoons when I was in graduate school. I didn't want to, seriously, I didn't want that, and me and him laughed about that. I say, hey man, I said, isn't that funny that there are people that literally have been telling people that nobody wants a woman over 35. I said, I got to a point where I refuse to date a woman under 35. Like I refuse. I was like, no, you got to prove to me. No. So anyway, put that all to the side. So we're having this conversation about this great woman. And here's one of the things that he said that was really smart. He said, man, I tried a different approach. I said, what was your different approach? He said, I took 8 months to get to know her before I ever visited her even one time. He said, I noticed that my blind spot is that if I meet a woman and she's gorgeous, I instantly am attracted to her. I said, yeah, because there's a whole bunch of psychological theories that basically say that love is it is like a drug. It literally distorts your reality. And when you are attracted to somebody and you have lust to a woman and she's looking good in that dress, you overlook almost everything. All the red flags that are screaming like red flag, you can't see them because you high. You literally are on that dope. You like God, like these endorphins have attacked your brain to the point where your whole reality is distorted. So he said, I spent 8 months getting to know her before I ever met her in person. And I think that's so important because that deals with that first layer of investing. When I said the knowns, the unknowns, and the unknown unknowns, a lot of people don't even have the knowns in terms of assessing the risk of their relationship because you didn't even take time to get to know that person. They met you on Tuesday and they're in your bed on Saturday. What the hell you think gonna happen? You ain't even taking the time to even know what the red flags might be because you're too busy trying to figure out how good the sex is gonna be. And then once the sex hits you, then kaboom, it's over. It's over. You're not gonna start noticing the red flags until about month 8. And after that point, by that time, that person is in your life. They have met all your friends. They living in your house. They're all up in your stuff, and you can't get rid of that person. So ultimately, I encourage people to look at your relationships like an investment. And with every good investment, real estate or any other field, you take time to do what they call due diligence. Any investor who does not do due diligence on their investment is a stupid sucker who's looking to lose their money and stay broke. So if you're looking to be broke emotionally, then don't do your due diligence. Go chase a big butt and a smile. Or go lay down with a guy just because he's making $150,000 a year, and don't spend the time evaluating what kind of a human being he is. And then you're gonna miss all the red flags because you did not do your due diligence. In life, smart people who have good lives, in my view, are people who think like investors. That's my 2 cents. What do you think?
Okay, so it sounds like what you were talking about is that, well, there's two things. Number one, when you start dating somebody, you need to take it slow. Take it slow. Turtle. Go at turtle pace before you start. And I mean, gosh, boys, how long have I known you? Almost 30 years. It took you a long time. It took you a long
Long time to what?
huh?
Well, what long time to propose to you?
It took you a long time. Yes.
I wasn't waiting to propose to you. I didn't think you were even an option.
I
If you had
know.
been available, I would have proposed. I would have probably proposed to you at about 30, 35 years old.
But
That
here's
would
the thing.
yeah,
I was available for so long when we first met. I don't
yeah,
even
yeah. When we first met,
that.
I was a 22-year-old, and to be honest with you, I don't think I would have been in a position to properly respect the kind of relationship I would have had with you at that age, because at that stage in my life, timing is everything. So at the age of 22, I was Mr. Go Get It. I was Mr. Ambitious. I was Mr. Study 10 hours a day.
So
I
was
wanted to,
I. I met you in the library.
yeah, you did. You did. And you were gorgeous. You were absolutely gorgeous. But I think that I don't know that I would have known what to do in a marriage and kids type scenario until I was fully ready. I just didn't. I wasn't. That was not of interest to me. I could have gotten married 1,000 times. I met women that were very nice and all that, but I had other things I wanted to do. I wanted to be one of the best scholars in the world, and that was what was important to me. And I did, and I would meet women that would become, some of whom would become very frustrated because I would say, "Oh, I'll call you on Tuesday," and I would forget, and it's because I would be working in the lab all night or whatever, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay. Like I don't judge anybody else's choices because I made my choices the way I wanted to
Yeah,
make them.
you really. The thing is, it's great. I think that's really interesting. You would forget, but depending on the woman, some maybe you don't forget. Maybe you
Yeah,
just like,
right. No, that's true too. I do believe that if a man really
I'm just
likes you,
saying.
he will make time for you. And so it's not to say you wouldn't have been.
And it's all good.
Let me say it again.
I said it's all good. Like I've had guys forget to call me, and I'll be like, okay, you can forget to call me. It's perfectly fine. I There's somebody else that didn't forget, so I moved on. I
Oh
ain't
yeah.
gonna be the one to be putting your ashes in the water, your mama's ashes. I'm not like that. I'm just like, cool. It's all cool, and I now know you. I see you. I see you. And,
I think in general, I don't believe in telling anybody like what to do and how to live their lives. I think that the dumbest thing you could do though is if you get all your relationship advice like from gurus on the internet, that's a big mistake because a lot of these internet people, some of them, they live pretty empty lives. They just pretend to be doing well so they can get you to watch their YouTube channel. But
yeah,
for the most part, it's they're gonna some of them will give you bad advice and they'll give you bad advice and you take it because it sounds good, and
yeah,
then but when you apply it to your own life it doesn't actually work, and then when you find out details of their life you find that their life wasn't as great as they were pretending that it was, like. So to me, if I'm going to get any sort of internet guidance on how to have a certain kind of relationship, I'm going to look at your relationships and I want to know the details of your relationship. I want to see your life. Just like if you're my fitness instructor, I need if you are 400 pounds, you're not going to be my fitness coach. And I really think that overall that's the interesting thing that I see in terms of of choices. I've always felt that people should just make their own choice, but
yeah.
consider.
It's so funny. I just wanted to, because before you move on to another point, I just want to say, like, um it's awful what you're saying about all of the internet gurus, and they have no credentials. They have like not studied, and it's awful because there's so many excellent professional practitioners who do great work and can give so much to society. It's just that we just aren't seen as much, and we don't have we don't have the ability to be have that shock value, to do these kind of outrageous things. It's really unfortunate that the exciting people and the people who get like all the attention are sometimes damaged in their communication and what they do. And all of us who are sitting here doing the work, the real work, the professional work, we're all kind of like putting our hands to our forehead, like, oh my gosh,
Well, what you got to think about? Well, first of all, why don't you look up while I make this statement? Why don't you look up and name a couple people who are good, so that we can really support them instead of just talking about the fact that they're out there. I think that we can consciously mention them, and maybe that could be something we could do in every conversation, is mention some people out here that are doing good work. I know Tia Brown does great work with Ready Set Grow Therapy, and one of the things I'll say is that the part of the interesting thing about the Black community and the way in relationships are discussed in the Black communities, you got to remember, you're literally looking at a community that's just you're looking at the ashes of dead bodies everywhere. Like, their dead relationships just splattered everywhere, and there's toxicity everywhere. And for example, a lot of people related to that crazy Kendrick Lamar song, where they're going back and forth, "F you, bitch, F you, F you, F you, bitch, F you," but they relate to that because that's how their relationships look. Like, their real life looks like that. And so, when you are a therapist and you are talking about things like respecting other people, or having empathy for other human beings,
Mm-hmm.
or creating a healthy environment for yourself, or sacrificing for your children, well, that's going to fall on deaf ears for a lot of people. That's like literally a foreign language for some people. It's like talking about health food in the middle of a fat farm. Ain't nobody gonna want to hear you talking about your salad and your quinoa and your vegan lifestyle. They want to go for the cheeseburgers. They want the Whopper with extra cheese with the chitlins on the side. Because that's the stuff that ends up tasting good, and
Mm-hmm.
it's also the stuff that ends up killing them.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that could be a trauma response too. It's to have that comfort food, and to be able to indulge yourself in unhealthy eating habits. Sometimes that happens to people all the time, and that could be a form of trauma: the overeating, the need for this sort of level of comfort. I mean, all sorts of addictions, all sorts of addictions come from that. Uh, in terms of your eating habits, and so it is a trauma response. Yeah, I agree with that, Boyce.
Yeah. I think that's what you're looking at, right? And then also remember that you have different age groups as well, right? So if you are 25, you probably can't really say a whole lot in terms of relationship advice to a 45-year-old that they need to be listening to, because a 45-year-old and a 25-year-old are just have different experiences and are going to see the world in different ways. And so if you look at for example, the late Kevin Samuels being 57, remember, there's a big age range between, say, 22 and 60. That's a 40-year gap. So there, at the very least, you can make an argument to say that a one size fits all model of relationships is not going to be appropriate, because the way that I was supposed to date when I was 25 is different from the way I was supposed to be dating when I was 45 or 50. And also, and again, I don't know about Kevin's dating situation, but I knew I was really kind of stunned by the way Kevin died in the arms of a 32-year-old that he just met, because I remember thinking to myself when I was in my 40s, I'm getting older and I don't want to die next to some 30-year-old lady that I just met the other day. And I remember specifically thinking about that because I had young women that still wanted to be around me. And I said, what if I get, my blood pressure is going up? What if my old ass have a heart attack or a stroke and I need somebody to haul me to the hospital? I said, I need an OG type of woman next to me who's really going to make sure I'm straight. I need a Black woman that knows what the fuck's going on, not some lady who's going to start flipping out because I was her sugar daddy. Like those sugar daddy relationships, they're fun, I guess, when you're younger, or when you're, when you're like 30, 35, 40, or whatever, that can be cool. But I think when you get like in your 50s and your 60s, you got to kind of have a plan B, and this is not new. Like, this is not like, it was almost like a tragic comedy, but not funny though. It wasn't funny, but it was tragic in the way Kevin died, because it was just like that Jack Nicholas movie. If you remember, what was it called? Do you remember that movie?
It's good.
As good as it gets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where he was like the older guy who's like, why would I, let somebody put the noose around me? I'm rich, so I'm gonna run around with young, beautiful women, and just change women like I change my underwear. And he was living that life, and he didn't want to settle down with a woman that was closer to his own age, because he thought any woman over 35 was gross, right? But yet he was like 60, and then
Yeah.
one day, yeah,
Um,
and then one day he has a heart attack,
yeah.
and he.
I
Oh,
think
go ahead.
I think you're right, and I think his own ability. It's his own ability to. I think a lot of people have a hard time embracing the fact that they're getting older, and that's why a lot of individuals, women and men, feel like they have to attach themselves to youth because they have a difficult time coming to terms with their own progression in terms of age. And I think that's wrong. I think that you should embrace, however or whatever age you are, you should embrace that, because there's wisdom that comes to being older. Those gray hairs can give you can give you wisdom, and it's something that you're an elder to, to speak, and you have all this lived experience, and I think it makes you extra special. Not to say that when you're younger it's terrible. Younger individuals, there's benefits to being younger, but there's also benefits to being older. And so I don't want to get into the ageism thing, but I think it's just like some people have a very difficult time coming to terms with getting older. And and part of it is society, because we talked about gender. A lot of it is put on society, that men are demonized in our society in a lot of different ways, because there's a lot of women, just like the urn the urn situation that we're talking about now. Women do a lot of awful things too, but it also it comes back to how we look at people who are up in age, and do we see them as somebody with wisdom and to be respected in our community, or do we just only think youth is what's important? And that's something for us to take a look at. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, well, I think that's an interesting point you make, because I think that definitely when we talk about the way we view women, the idea that we think younger women are more valuable because they're physically younger and more attractive in certain ways, that right there is a little bit interesting, because that's, I mean, that type of beauty is fleeting, and it's almost like, it makes women into almost like disposable napkins, that, okay, you're good till you're about 30, 31, 32, 33, and then at that point we start looking for a younger model, and we just kind of recycle out. And I think that that's kind of a huge waste in terms of seeing, the overall value that a good woman can bring to your life. And I would say that, at the same time, though, I think that there is space for people to be free, to be honest about what works for them and what they truly want, right? So I would not necessarily fault them. Like, if you showed me a 50-something-year-old man who says, "Look, I like dating the young women, and this is why," I'm not one to sit here and say, "Oh, what's wrong with you? That's so stupid. How could you be attracted to that?" I get it. I understand, what you might be feeling, and I respect it. I just would encourage men to not do things because that's what everybody else is doing. Like, I think that's the part about, some of these this cliques or cohorts or groups, or manosphere type spaces, is that a lot of these men don't know who the hell they are. They're not thinking strategically, because you're thinking like a mob, you're thinking like a group, you're just literally trying to fit in, right, to what everybody else is saying. And I'm gonna tell you, some of these guru people that have you fitting into a cult, they're
Mm.
not going to be there for you when
Mm.
their horrible advice has messed up your life, or when you have, trying to be Mr. Macho Man, have thrown away the best woman that you ever met, because you're trying to go chase some hot thing down the street. They're not going to be there for you as you try to repair your life, or you're trying to find the peace and happiness that's going to really work for you. And I think that's the part that I would challenge men on is I see a lot of groupthink and I see a lot of simple-minded think. You know, like when you have hard and fast rules, like just some of the things that would just come out about things that people would say about single mothers, absolutely insane. You know, so you're literally going to eliminate every single woman you meet who has children. And number one, you got children yourself. You know, let's not forget that. Number two, you might have had a single mother. That tells me you're a stupid person. You're not smart enough to at least say to you could say, look, I have a preference. You know, hey, I don't really know if I necessarily wanted to take care of kids yet. I'm not ready for that. I get that. That was my life. I made those same choices too. But when you get to the point where you make hard and fast rules and you're simply repeating what somebody said on a fucking YouTube channel, you have got to be the dumbest human being to ever walk the face of the earth. And I'm not telling men to make any choice that I've ever made. I'm just saying don't be stupid and don't be a follower. Be a damn leader. Like if you want, I mean, really, if you're talking about really the essence, in my view, the essence of manhood is be okay with being that man who says, look, I know what the rest of y'all are doing, but I'm gonna be over here finding my bliss. My success in life came from me looking at what all the other men were doing and saying, you know what, y'all have fun over there. I'm gonna be over here because I thought about it, and this is what's gonna make Boyce happy. This is what's gonna work for Boyce over here, and I could give half a nickel of concern about what you think about the choice I made. You know, and I make that point loudly, and I'm gonna stop talking because I want you to talk. I want you to respond, or you can take it to wherever you want to go. But I make that point loudly because the louder the voices got, that from guys who I think perhaps naively were following the crowd in terms of when Kwame Brown was making fun of me for getting married to you and everything else. I became that much clearer in saying, like, no, don't be stupid. Make a choice. Be a man. Learn how to make your own decisions. Stop following the crowd. There's nothing I have less respect for than a man who cannot formulate his own ideas and his own perspective and his own philosophy. When you say something to me, and I know that the reason you're saying it is because you heard Kevin Samuel say it on a YouTube channel, that tells me you haven't thought at all about what's going to work for you as a man, which means you're going to be just like 10,000 other men that I have known throughout the years who all did what everybody else was doing and ended up in a ditch. Don't end up in a ditch. I mean, or at least if you do end up in a ditch, make sure it's the ditch that you chose and you're not going into a ditch just because you saw everybody else was doing it. So go ahead, babe. What are you going to say?
Yeah, you're talking about that herd mentality. And when someone comes from a certain group because they all say the same thing. It's almost like they're programmed to speak the same thing and to say the same thing. They all have that same, their comments are all the same. They'll say something like, it could be different people, but the comments will be exactly the same. And that's how you know they come from that herd mentality. And I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, there's a lot of people that have they're just comfortable in a group, and they're not going to do any better than the people in that group. Yeah, so that's sad. And I think that especially when it gets into this negative space, and when you start to take an entire group of people like women, and you just put them into a category, and you say that they're less than, and you have contempt for them. And I know I've spoken about Kevin Samuels quite publicly, and of course privately, about the psychological abuse that the people who called his show, what they endured. And that's what it is. It's abusive. It's not helpful. And so I think that rest in peace, to him and his family. But I hope that it can be, now our conversation can really be more constructive, and hopefully voices like ours and some other voices that want to kind of, instead of being divisive between the genders, can can be more unionized, because you can't categorize someone just based on their background. I know we talked about this, that there's many different situations and many different family structures that impact how you live your life. And you can't just say, oh, you're doing this because you're a single mother, or you're doing this because you are over 35. Like, to put people in categories like that is really demeaning. And
Mm.
so multiple reasons why people do what they're doing. So I'm glad you brought that up, Boyce. Good job. Good job, Boyce.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? I'll say this. I think, I see some questions in the chat or comments, and
Mm-hmm.
someone mentioned Kevin Samuels, and they said, I don't understand why Kevin Samuels is such a threat. And I wouldn't say that Kevin was a threat. Kevin was a very intelligent commentator who had a very persuasive voice. And what I really wish I could have helped him do was have some balance with that voice. I think that you could make your point about what you believe you should do as a man without making black women the kicking, the whipping, the poster child of every opinion that you have, and then to speak as if there's nothing wrong with us as men. That literally every single problem that happens in every single relationship that involves a black woman is because modern women don't listen, modern women don't do this right, they don't do that right. And a lot of people have debated me on that, and I because I listen to the brothers, I listen, and we talk about it, and they say no, doc, he talked about men too, he criticized men too, he tore some man up on the show. And I say, yeah, but I want you to go and do this experiment. Here's the experiment I want y'all to do. I want you to go to Kevin Samuels YouTube channel, and actually we can do it right now. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if anybody's doing any content on it. They should use this channel. I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar asset. A lot of people don't don't know this, but it's a very valuable asset. I mean, it's getting millions of views, so he was probably making a ton of money from it. And I want you to look at the last, say, 10 to 15 videos on that channel, last 10 to 15 thumbnails. And if he were talking about men and women equally, half the thumbnails would have a man on them where he's criticizing men, and half the thumbnails would have a woman on it where he's criticizing women. So let's look at the page. I want to make my point here. So let me show you. Let's pop it open. I don't even know. I haven't even looked at this yet. So for all I know, I could end up being wrong about this. All right. So let's look. First title: Modern women are. What? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. You know you're not wrong.
No. Actually, I haven't looked at this yet, so I could end up being wrong. Modern women are a party of one. That's the last video that he did before he passed. Rest in peace. And it's an unhappy black woman with holding a birthday cake where she's very sad because she makes bad choices in her life. The next one, the self-love of modern women. So it shows a woman selfishly loving herself. Let's see. Worst wife ever calls in for dating advice. So that's woman. So far, we're 3-0. 4. Worst wife ever calls in for dating advice again. Over 40 dating sucks for modern women. Next title: Conversation with the lead attorney in Miami. That one, I guess that's his special guest. I don't think he was bringing the lead attorney in to attack him or tell him that he was going to die alone or that he's that he's leftovers. Let's see. Next, modern women charge for submission. Single mother from down under has too many somethings. Modern women have to share men. Leftover women are tired of men. Bad boss Buddha chick wants rich husband. Lizzo can, but Cam Newton cannot. So I guess he's talking about Lizzo. Let's see here, and I'm not here to defend Lizzo. Y'all know that. Let's see. Here's another. Cam Newton triggers bad boss bitches. He does a live Q&A from LA. Why are modern women running away? So I'm supposed to settle for a regular dude? Like, so my point is to say that this is not a channel that was balanced between critiquing men and critiquing women. This was a channel that was built in a very basic, simple way. The simple model is we're going to post up every week some image of the black woman or maybe we'll pick some woman that I can beat up on camera, and everybody can sit in the back and cheer me on as I explain that these are the people that are the reason that the men in my group can't get a girlfriend or can't get the woman that they want or have problems with their baby's mamas, right? It's because her standards are too high. She wants to have it all. She's incredibly selfish. She's messing up her relationships, right? And I'm not saying these things aren't true, right? These things do happen in relationships, but I'm like, where's the critique of the men? At what point are you telling the men, look, your shit don't stink either. And maybe you think that her standards are too high because you can't meet the standard, and that's just making you upset. So I don't understand why that's. I mean, the worst I can think that would happen from what I just said, babe, is that there's gonna be people, because I've seen some of the weird guys. Like there's some weird guy who has, his name is O'Shea Jackson, but I know the real O'Shea Jackson. I know Ice Cube. So I'm wondering I wonder if O'Shea has his own real name or if he's got to go steal other men's names or something. But I'm sure, there are guys like that who will come back, and because they get very emotional in their defense of whatever they believe in, they think I'm attacking what they're saying. I'm not attacking it. I'm saying just be a man. I'm saying be a man and understand that part of being a man means looking at all sides of the issue. If somebody just simply gets you to be a cheerleader as they're beating up on whatever you've chosen as your selected scapegoat to help you escape accountability for the reasons that you're coming up short, then to me that's no different from those feminists who say men are the reasons for all their problems. It becomes you just become the bigger bitch. That's it. Literally, like when you're yelling and you're out screaming women and saying it's your fault and you're the reason that why this and you're the reason why that. And we're holding these women accountable, but you ain't holding yourself accountable, right? But we got to hold these women accountable. Why? That's what my thing. That's what real men, like the men I know who are living their lives or whatever, are looking at this and they're like, why in the world? Like that, well, we got to hold these women accountable. It's like, why? Like, if a woman is making bad choices and her standards are too high, then let her live over that. Let her make her choices.
Yeah.
Why is it your job to hold everybody else accountable, but ain't not one conversation in there that I saw, not one thumbnail was about holding men accountable and saying, this is where you're coming up short too.
Yeah, and when I look at that, it really makes me say it's sad to see, because a lot of these men are so injured, and I that's all I see. I see men who have been injured. I see that a lot of healing needs to take place with people who gravitate towards such negativity and one-sidedness in the conversation. I didn't see I can't necessarily disagree too much with a lot of what Kevin Samuels, has said. I mean, of course, you can always find, Black women or people, whatever, doing some things that are less than ideal. But the fact that he would come down so hard on Black women, and here we have an example about the Earn situation, about how she has she was totally triggered by this whole thing, and she did something that was illegal and that was abusive, and him cheating on her, that's psychological and emotional abuse too. So whatever the dynamic between their relationship is, that there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of I don't want to sound like Jada a lot of, how Jada talked about how there's healing that needs to be done, but for
But I'm not
situation,
I'm not really defending Jada,
I ain't either. I ain't defending her. That's another. We need to talk about her. She did a Red Table Talk. That was interesting stuff there. But I just see so much injury, and to be able to just become popular off of the denigration of Black women. I don't know. Like, I feel like Black women, we have it really hard, and Black men do too. But
I can't hear you. Hey, Alicia.
way more difficult in a lot of different ways. There are some ways where Black men have it really bad, where we don't get to experience a lot of that. But there's many, many different ways where Black women, I mean, I was just reading something recently about how Black women are the least paid for the work that they do. And if they make a mistake on the job, or if they make a mistake, they receive like the worst penalty, and coming down on them really difficult. And I can speak from personal experience. Hell yeah, that that happens in my life. One, coming down on you with a vengeance. Yeah. And so we really need a lot of love, and we haven't gotten in. And what were you gonna say, Boyce?
Well, let me say this. When I take instruction or critique or criticism from black women or black men or anybody, I don't take it from everybody equally. You know, if I'm going to consider letting a woman criticize me, my question would become: have you earned that right to be? Have you earned the right to criticize me? If you want to criticize how I respond to my pain, uh, you have more credibility if you sat with me in that pain. If you went to battle with me and you saw and we fought the same battles together, then I can hear you out. And let me give you an example. I'm not really interested in hearing. Let's say you have a black woman who marries a white man, and she wants to do a TV show where she's talking about what black men need to do better. She has no credibility to me because you're not even in the battle. You're not in the trenches with the black man. You're not fighting alongside the black man. You're not helping us to deal with the issues that we're facing. So you're really kind of trying to coach the team as a spectator. You're not participating in this game. You're just watching. You're coaching from the sidelines, and you have no credibility in my view. Doesn't mean that what you're saying can't be right, but you haven't earned the right to criticize me. And I would almost make the same argument when you talk about when Kevin was here. You know, Kevin spoke extensively about the black woman, and you could make an argument to say he was trying to help black women do better. He was trying to make sure they don't die alone, like he did. They're trying to make sure that he's trying to make sure that they learn that their standards are too high and they got to change this and change that. Okay, I get all that. I get all that. But to me, if you are going that hard to correct black women because you feel it's your job to correct them, you're not exploiting them for profit. You're not, let's assume that you're not trying to use them to get views on a YouTube show. Then my question is, when you are on your deathbed, are you laying next to a black woman? Or were you laying next to Hortensia Cortez or whoever that lady is? Because she wasn't no African American woman. She was not black. So how in the hell are you telling me you're preparing black women for what they need to do to impress high value black men for marriage and all these other things? And you're not married to a black woman. You're not really, it doesn't appear that you're dating a black woman. It doesn't appear you have a solid relationship with a black woman. It sounds like you're laying down with ladies you met 24 hours ago who might be hookers, who are not even black. That unfortunately, the reality is that undermines your credibility quite a bit, because I would never, ever, ever let a black woman who only lays down with white men tell black men how we need to change our behavior. I would never allow that. And so if I'm not going to allow it from a woman, I'm not going to allow it from a man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the community sees, and I think that's a point that needs to be made.
Yeah, and even so, um, if you want to help somebody, the best thing you can do is have empathy for them. And if you want to help someone, the best thing you can do is have a positive regard for that person, a nice, honest, positive regard toward that person in a way that is respectful. Is the best way to help somebody. It's ground one on on how you help someone. And I think that the contempt and a lot of the negativity and the some of the meanness that came out is definitely a place where you just can't help anybody when you're mean like that to them. Like it doesn't work. What you're doing is you're making fun of them, and you're putting their uh, their pain on display for a profit. And I think that we as a Black community, we deserve better than that. Much better to profit off of our demise and to make fun of us and put a spotlight on the worst of us and not see the beauty in us. It's almost like, I mean, it's worse than what whoever you slept with, it's worse than what any white person has ever done to us. It hurts more when it comes from us. Um, and I think it's really unfortunate, boys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is, and I think that I would encourage anybody that wants to be pro-black, that's pro-family, to understand you can't be pro-black and constantly attack and berate the black woman. You can't do that. You can't be pro-black and be anti-black family.
Or black man. I mean, there are a lot of people out here that I've seen talk terrible about black men. Black men this and black men that. Like, what is that? And I mean, I've heard awful things said about you boys. It's just like, First of all, most of it ain't even true. And half of it is just um it's just mean. I don't know what to say. It's just mean. It's just mean.
Well, that comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Like when I every now and then I get the flare ups. The Kwame Brown types and others that become obsessed with what I'm doing, and that's really just people seeing what you're doing and they want to, I guess, imitate it or have a piece of it or whatever. And I guess that's life. And it's easy for me to just continue to be me and continue to do what I'm doing because I just truly don't care. And one thing I've learned about the internet over time is that it's a place where a lot of the toxic energy tends to come out because it's nothing for somebody to just hop in the chat and make a crazy comment real quick or make a stupid comment or say something, say you're fat or you're ugly or you're
Yeah,
stupid.
it's like, say it to me in my face. Say it to my face. They ain't gonna say it to your face.
Right. Or actually what I've done actually though, what I've done actually where, very few people take me up on it is when Kwame Brown, for example, had so much to say about our wedding and he had a lot to say about you, never met me or whatever. And then, you have these weak little guys using words like simp when 90% of them are simps anyway. It's so what I did was I reached out to him. I said, I know you're 7 feet tall and I'm not, but I would have no problem coming up to you and looking you right in the eye and having a man-to-man conversation. And we've appeared since then. We've had 2 or 3 events where we've both been invited at the same time. And each time they always ask me, they said, so are you okay? What if he's in the room when you're there? And I'm like, well, I have no problem looking another man in the eye and talking to him directly, but I'm not going to chit chat over the internet like a little teenage girl. Like I'm not doing that. Because I'm a grown man. Like, and as a grown man, it's like I will sit down with you. If you have an issue with me, then sit down, look me in my eye, and tell me what the issue is so we can figure this out as men. I'm not caught up in the rah-rah of the internet. The internet is a place where you have a lot of people who never got respect in the real world, who suddenly are feeling like they're important people because they got 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. And I see past all of that. I'm a professor. I analyze everything. I can break stuff down to a microcosmic level. So ultimately, all this is just a bunch of hoopla and a bunch of nonsense. What's real in our community is what's going on with our families, what's going on with our children, what's going on with the future of this community. And if we can eventually have a conversation, a productive conversation about that, then everything else you're talking about is basically entertainment. That's all it is. And entertainment means just absolutely nothing to me. And so, in general, the other thing I will always say too is that whenever I've had people that would go out of their way and do like lots and lots of videos, so part of it is if you put my name in a video, it's going to get you some extra views, and I understand that these guys
Yeah,
need the money.
their whole entire platform is on. I'm gonna talk bad about Boyce. I'm gonna talk bad about this person. Their whole entire platform is trashing, trash.
Yeah. Or what they call it, like roasting people and stuff
Uh,
like that. And I've hit some of them up. I said, look, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to scream and holler back and forth at you on YouTube because that's what children do. But if you want to call me, here's my phone number. Or if you want me to come on your show, I will answer every single question that you have. I have absolutely my intellect does not fear your intellect. Like there's nothing you're not going to outsmart me. You're not going to trick me with some trick questions. No, you come to me, especially if you have a nice big platform. Sure, you can ask as many hostile questions as you want, and I will answer every single one of them. And what happens is that when people get challenged like that, they tend to kind of shrivel up. They tend to walk away, or they'll just go back and they'll just make another video because the entertainment is what's getting the rent paid. And I think that that's fine. So I'm not really concerned about so much people saying things on the internet because every time somebody says something bad, there's somebody that says something good, and it all kind of balances itself out. I would encourage anybody out here that's like doing your thing. One thing you can learn from this is just keep being you, keep moving. If you just keep it moving and you just let people know, look, I'm gonna be the same person on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday as I was on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then eventually every single hater you'll ever have in your life walks away, and they usually find something else to do. And if you look at the track record, I've had crazy attacks. I mean, I'm talking about videos with hundreds of thousands of views. And Kevin Samuels did a video about me, but actually he didn't attack. Kevin was a very believe it or not, he was actually quite a logical, intelligent person, in the sense that he when he talked about me, he spoke in a way where I said, okay, actually what he's saying is actually correct.
He did a terrible video about me. Remember that?
Well, yeah, well, that's because some of your perspectives are not consistent with his perspectives, and I think it's his right to disagree with you.
Yeah,
right? And I disagree with him.
Yet again, another Black woman. He didn't, yeah.
Yeah, but remember that. But the thing was, though, I have to give him credit, though, because when he did speak about you, from what I understand, I didn't watch the whole video, but he didn't do it the same way that, like, say, a Kwame Brown did it. Like some of these guys just talk out of the side of their ass. They don't know what the hell's going on, and their goal is to be ignorant and disrespectful. I can respect a person who disagrees with me. What I cannot respect is a person who is a 40-year-old teenager, or you are willfully ignorant, or you just trying to keep it as gutter as possible because you know that ignorant people respond to ignorant content. Once you start getting ignorant, that lets me know that we're just not the same. Like okay, go do what ignorant people do. Get your little YouTube views, make your little money. God bless you. Maybe one day you'll be on the BET Awards. I'm not trying to get on the BET Awards. I'm trying to actually have conversations that lead us to understand the world a little bit better and to have better lives for Black people. Because remember, a lot of these people that act all crazy, they are unhappy as shit. They are miserable people. I don't want to be miserable like you. Like whatever chaotic, vile nonsense that just came out of your mouth tells me that you must be really hurting on the inside. Like when somebody is really toxic like that, and literally they're spewing poison out of their mouth every time they talk, that means that they're walking around with poison inside their bodies that they're spewing out onto the world. I don't want to be full of poison. What am I going to do? Out poison you? I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah, there's someone in the chat, SD and H99. They made a comment. Maybe one day we'll be able to profit off creative, innovative stuff over gender wars and celeb gossip.
Perhaps.
That.
Well, there's really good stuff being done in the Black community. It just doesn't get as much attention as the toxic stuff. But like right now, for example, down at the Black House in Atlanta, I was gonna go down there this week, and you and I should have both went down if I didn't have my little COVID thing. But they had this great 4-day homecoming at the Black House, and it was full of Black people who want to love each other and help each other, and they're doing projects together. I cannot wait to go to Atlanta and get involved they're making movies down there. They're building a Black-owned film industry, and I just, that excites the heck out of me. Like that. So when I think about the stuff that really gets me going and gets me passionate, I'm thinking about that. All the things that represent seeds of possibility for the Black community. I love that. Everything that represents division and civil war and nigga, you ain't this and all that.
Tearing it down.
Yeah, that stuff that's like, no, we have enough of that. Yeah, I don't even care about any of that. like I'm tired of that, man. I want to be part of the healthy side of the Black community, the side that's winning. I don't want to be hanging out trying to argue with losers all day. Who wants to do that? So that's my
I love it.
What you say, babe?
I said, I love what you're saying. Yeah, more positivity. We're going to have a fun summer, boys. I can't believe you have COVID. This is so crazy. How
what
possible? I was all in your face.
I know.
Were like,
I know.
We were smooching.
I told everything. To have my COVID with me.
We're on our anniversary trip, and we were smooching. We were smooching all the way up until when you got sick.
Well, how did
you didn't even really get sick? You're kind of. We went for a run. We've been doing stuff. I just hate that.
The fact that I have COVID? I know.
I miss you. You're we're apart. I can't even hardly sleep at night.
Yeah. I haven't had a spouse in a week now. It's kind of weird. I like to have my wife back.
This ain't right. This is not right. Now I'm gonna be I'm not even taking my own advice. I'm not being
the COVID protocol, did they allow conjugal visits?
there's no how does this happen?
I can't even, and I'm so used to like I didn't realize how I'm so used to touching you constantly just because, and then to be in a space where I can't touch you, or I have to socially distance like that. That is very awkward and very weird. But hopefully we'll be better soon. So anyway, You Betcha says happy anniversary, and thank you very much. We appreciate it. And I don't have much else to say today. We started off with our topic for today, but then as y'all know, we take the conversation wherever we need to take it. So thank you all for listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. And I see Lene's in the building, by the way. Lene Javette.
What?
Yes.
In the chat. What's up?
Yeah. The awesome Lene Javette. And Lene's got her Black Power conference coming up. I wish I could put the URL on the screen, but I don't have it. But I'll bring it up next time. And so anyway, shout out to Lene. We love you. She's a great friend and a great person. So if you all could, please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, you can go to boyceandalicia.com if you'd like some free resources on the drama-free lifestyle. Lene, if you want to put your URL in the chat, I can actually pop it up on the screen so everybody can see it. She's got 29 speakers for her conference, which is an absolutely epic undertaking. Lene is just diligent like that. And also Alicia's website. I want to give you guys her information so you can follow her on Instagram. It is coachingwithdralicia.com. Alicia sees clients on a regular basis, and also she teaches a lot of classes on how to deal with your problems in your relationship. So if you've got a relationship that's kind of driving you crazy, then I encourage you to fix it, because unhealthy relationships are very costly emotionally, financially, and otherwise. And so I encourage you to make the investment in your family by getting the help that's out there. The solution is out there. Don't try to do it all by yourself. All right, guys. Well, please have a wonderful day, and God bless you. And it was great hanging out with you. And thank you, DDS, again, for moderating the chat. I respect you so much, brother, for holding it down. You will always appreciate it. And of course, I also want to say thank you to my lovely wife. I appreciate you as well. Thank you, baby.
Yes. Thanks for inviting me on. I love these pillow talks personally because I get to talk to you.
I know, absolutely.
I'm with you. Undivided attention. I love it.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So next time we'll be against a real pillow. I look forward to that.
Yes.
All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful night, and God bless you. It was real, and we shall speak to you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.